Hey, I want to talk about that other way to play Psyker that kind of fell under the radar. I talked about it in the past, but it kind of got overlooked when I started talking about Flame Staff because that's just the star of the show. It's like the best thing in the entire game. But as a lot of you have figured out by now, you can't really run double Flame Staff. And you also need a lot of rending for the Flame Staff to really reach that insane territory. But Psyker is a class you kind of want two of, because you kind of want to use Venting Shriek and Bubble. Well, that's what this is for. The Rending Shockwave Trauma Staff, or voidblast now, whatever, fuck you. This staff is genuinely amazing. It fills the role of Smite, just like it used to. It's slightly worse at crowd control than Smite is, but it's still like S tier at it. But it also applies brittleness like Onslaught does. So, if you're wondering what this actually looks like in a game, this is the kind of crowd control you're looking at. Just completely smiting these guys in a choke point. Now, worth noting, there is like a thing that stops Crushers from getting re-staggered for a little bit. You also, for Crushers in particular, really need to like launch this on them. But as you can see, you can't just endlessly chain stagger on them, which is where Smite is a little bit better at crowd control. But still, one hard knockdown every like 5 seconds in a choke point is not bad crowd control at all. And if you're wondering at the kind of damage that this can pull off, let me build up some heat first. You still get to benefit from stacks, even if you aren't using the thingamajigger. So if you just hunt down the guys that have the stacks and apply rending, you're still getting those full rending stacks and knocking things down. So it's not like a slouch at dealing damage either. But because most of the damage isn't coming from the actual stacks, it's coming from the rending you're throwing out, you can afford to run Bubble on this and it's not a huge loss. Alright, so, Dueling Sword, you already know it's the best melee in the game, flat carapace so you can kill armored shit quickly, thrust uncanny for bosses and armor shit. Yeah, you've seen it a million times. The Void Blast Staff, there are multiple ways to run this. Do not think this is the only way. The other ways you can run this, I'm going to talk about when we discuss a separate way to make this build. This is what I prefer. I prefer Maniac for this right here. Being able to just, like, kill these guys quickly. You do one of these, and then you start, like, doing this, and you can actually kill these guys pretty effectively. So that's why no Carapace. You could drop Maniac for Carapace, like if you're playing like Psyker, Veteran, or you're playing with a really good Veteran player and you don't have to worry about like Bombers and Flamers and shit, I would drop Maniac for Carapace. You could alternatively drop either of these for crit chance and drop Warp Flurry for a blessing that gives you Soul Blaze, but I'm going to discuss that later. I like Warp Flurry with this for the simple fact that it just makes you spam it harder. And the whole point is to spam the actual Rending Shockwave itself, to give Rending for all of the dots and all of your teammates. Toughness, CDR, Revive Speed, Toughness. Yeah, if you've seen one build, you've seen all the Kyrios before. Okay, now let's talk talents, and let's just on this because that's getting really annoying. So, again, this is how I like to run it because it's just very safe and it's more about the team. Soul Stealer, because, come on, one Void Blast Staff and you get half your toughness back is ridiculous. Same thing with Quietude. You know Battle Med, you run it for Havoc Quelling so you don't have to stop casting. Perilous Combustion because it's Perilous Combustion. The stacks overcapping synergizes really nicely with the rending itself. This is the one time I actually like Kinetic Flare, and this is why right here. I like it because even if, if you're fighting all this stuff, let's say a bomber spawns. You just pop them one time. I don't like the auto brain burst when you're using the flame staff. But I do like it with staffs that have decent regular M1s. I feel like it's pretty decent at just sniping them. But this is honestly the worst node in the whole thing. If you were going to change something, you would be dropping this to add something else. Lightning Speed just for attack speed because melee attack speed is amazing. Channeled Force and Empiric Shock actually work wonders in this. One, Empiric Shock is warp damage taken. So it's not just your warp damage. So if you're using this in combination with another Psyker, this is just like 20-30% damage for them on top of the rending you're providing them. You like double their DPS by playing this. Channeled Force is just because Well, just look at this. The M1s are actually not that bad once you've applied the rending. Like, they're actually pretty good. And when all you need to do... Here, think about it like this, okay? Let me just let the buffs go away. So let's do one of these. So that crit for 1,200. So you're looking at like 1,000 after rending. You do just one of these, and you're already getting that. Basically, just one M1 is like the equivalent of applying the rending. Like, you can already see how we're getting a huge amount of extra damage from this. Also, we got the elite number, which is kind of crazy. So all you need to do is just hit the ball one time for 20% more damage to your rending shockwaves. I'm sorry, I have it backwards. 10% for the shockwaves and 20% for the balls. And you could see those balls start hitting for like 3,500. It's quite ridiculous. And Empiric Shock is just so the dots get buffed, really more than anything. But it does buff your damage as well. Seer's Presence, Psychonetics Aura, one with the Warp. This is exactly the same as every build. Now, you could drop Venting Shriek. And if you were playing with a Flamestaff Psyker, I would actually recommend dropping this and grabbing Shield instead. We'll talk about the Forbidden. Don't worry. We'll summon the Forbidden one in a minute. But this is just for extra DPS and can be dropped for team support. And I would recommend doing that if you already have a Flamestaff Psyker, because you don't really need more Venting Shriek. Solidity just to spam harder. Penetration of the Soul for more rending, because, your own dots and your own damage really wants the rending. Warp Siphon so you can spam your ultimate more or just get the extra damage from it. Warp Ghost because, like I said, I don't like this node that much in Gun Psyker, but I do really like it in just about every other form of Psyker. And these two are just flat damage nodes, which you kind of always want. Okay, so this is like the safe sit back in your bubble and stay next to your Flame Psyker and support them and boost up their damage setup. But what if you didn't want to do that? What if you wanted to investigate the dark arts and you said, what if we just don't use Flame Staff at all? Don't worry, I got you. This is evil. And honestly, I don't feel all that good about this. So for this, you would walk your ass over to Hadron. You would get rid of Warp Flurry and throw in, like, Blazing Spirit. Then you would drop the Maniac for critical strike chance. And then you activate Scryer's Gaze and you pray to Lord Umbasa you actually start getting some crits. And this will start giving you an okay amount of Soul Blaze that, when combined with the rending and damage from Scryer's Gaze, can actually do okay damage. And then you just hope that Perilous Combustion can kind of carry you from there. I like this setup a lot less, I'll be honest with you. I feel like at this point you might as well just play with a Flame Staff. But if you are looking for a really strong and viable alternative, this is fine. But this would be my main recommendation, just running it like this and playing the safe way. This build is overall really, really strong. And honestly, if you've got a good Flame Psyker and you want to play Psyker as well, you might as well just do this, because now you'll start seeing your Flame Staff buddy get like 4 million damage games instead of 3 million damage games in Rotten Armor. So that's always fun. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It's just, you have the Dueling Sword for bosses. You have... Oh, one thing I guess I could say is that because of all of these extra little side damage bonuses, you're actually pretty good at dealing with gunners. You're legitimately no slouch at anti-gunner stuff, especially if you can click heads. So yeah, this build just kind of does everything. Dueling Sword for great boss damage. The M1 of the staff is great at sniping specials because you're taking all of the left-click, right-click nodes. The CC is not as good as Smite, but it's still some of the best in the game because you're constantly knocking things over. But it's really just about the support you provide. You give Bubble, and you give the, like, 60% or whatever rending to the entire team. Which, when combined with their own rending nodes, is kind of like just ignoring armor entirely almost. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. I hope you like this. I hope you give it a try. It's a lot better than you probably think.